Hello, everyone. Looks like we have a lot of participants joining already, which is great. I know that a few people will probably roll in after the fact, and that's okay. This is being recorded, so I am just going to go ahead and get started, just to be conscious of everybody's time, make sure there's enough time for questions at the end. And let's kick it off. Welcome to the info session for the 3D public art project at the Boise Airport. Today I'm going to walk you through the opportunity, but before I get to that, there's a few housekeeping items that we explain before every info session. First, if you don't know me, I'm Savannah Sheehan. I'm the Public Art Project Coordinator for the Boise Airport, hence why I'm doing this project. I want to note that the session is being recorded. It will be available online. It might take a couple of days to process it, but it will be available well before the deadline for this application. English language transcriptions are also available by clicking live transcript button at the bottom of the screen and then selecting show subtitle. Subtitles can also be viewed in the recording. I'd also like to acknowledge the history of the land that Boise City is on. So we recognize the ancestral, cultural, traditional, and unceded territory of the Shoshone, Bannock, and Northern Paiute people, and that's whose land we're on today. As a reminder, if you have any questions, please submit them in through the Q&A feature whenever they come to you. There will also be time to answer these questions at the end. You can also always reach me by phone or email if you have questions after this webinar is over. Now, on to the agenda is what we're going to talk about, just a brief project overview, the anticipated timeline, application and criteria, selection panel and process, a couple of tips, and then a couple of questions. Oh, now I'm moving too fast. About the project, this is some information you probably saw in the call for art if you've already looked at it, and if not, here's going to be an introduction. This project will install a three-dimensional work of art onto a flat wall in the Boise Airport. The total award is $50,000. We are inviting individual artists and artist teams to apply for this opportunity, but artist teams should only submit one application. So if you're an artist team, work on that application together. And then here are our project goals. So use shifting narratives towards progress and nostalgia as inspiration to inform the design of a new piece of public art. And then evoke nostalgia against the backdrop of a rapidly shifting city. So you can easily see the themes that we're playing with. Boise and Idaho and other cities throughout the United States are changing a lot, and that can bring up a lot of feelings, both positive and maybe not so positive. So what does that mean to you as an artist? How would you display it? How would you visually describe it? That's the point of this opportunity. Some location and logistics information. This project is intended to be three-dimensional, so for this one, no murals or framed prints or paintings, but those opportunities will come, not just at the airport, throughout the city. So opportunities for 2D coming later, but this one is 3D. The end goal is to install a three-dimensional work of art that is modular and adaptable. Now, just for the sake of transparency, we include information that selected finalists will be given. So in your initial application, you don't have to do anything with this information. It is just information that you should know. Keep in mind, tuck it away in your back pocket if you want to. So the work can't weigh more than 400 pounds. That's what the wall can support. It can't be any deeper than 4 inches, so it can't come more than 4 inches off the wall. That's just because this is an active space for people. They're sitting, they're walking, they're moving around. We want to make sure that our public art doesn't impede the function of the airport. Still three-dimensional, but a bit more shallow. This wall is by Gate 18 in Concourse B of the Boise Airport. The available installation space is approximately 22 feet long by 5.5 feet tall. So the wall is obviously bigger than this. This is just the available space for installation. And the selected artist or artist team will meet with us in the future, arts and history staff and airport staff, to talk details about final dimensions and weight, how to install it, and then some security requirements because this is on the secure side of the airport. Here is our anticipated project timeline. This is just a really quick snapshot. Some of these dates might change except for the application deadline. That's not going to change. That is a static deadline. That is about 2 weeks from now, February 13th. That's a Friday at 1 p.m. The reason the application ends, the deadline is at 1 p.m., is so that if something goes wrong, maybe it's 12:59 and you're about to hit submit, and then the clock changes and you don't get your application in, you can email me and we can talk about it. If you have any questions leading up to that deadline, I am working that day. I'm available to answer your questions, even in the 11th hour. Then your finalists will be selected in March of this year. A final artist will be selected and awarded a contract between April and May. That's just to give our panelists enough time to look at the applications and make the right decision. The final design will be due in September, and then installation will be around winter of 2026 or spring of 2027. Now, application and criteria, if I could scroll properly. We use the platform Submittable, which is pretty user-friendly and it's free. And so I am going to pull up Submittable tab to show you what that looks like. This is the application. If you've already looked at it, this is familiar. If you haven't looked at it, this is an introduction. You have your eligibility section, which is your name, your age, your address, your contact information. Then we get into the meat and potatoes of the project and of the application, which is your artist resume. You drop that file in right here. It can be a Word doc, it can be a PDF, just whatever your artist resume looks like. Include websites that are relevant to you, social media accounts that are relevant to you. Then we get into your written statement. That's 250 words or less, or you can upload a video under 2 minutes. And the point of this is to respond to the project goals. So explain your understanding of these goals, why they're important to you, what they mean to you specifically as an artist, if they're related to your practice or if this is new for you. Then we get into your concept description. You have a little bit more room for that, 500 words or less, or a video under 3 minutes. The goal of this is for you to describe your concept in writing, but without submitting a visual proposal. Visual proposals are a big ask. We don't ask artists to submit them without paying for them. That's something we leave to finalists. This still gives you a chance to explain it. So in this concept description, talk about your 3D medium, your early ideas for modular capability, and then make the connection between your 3D medium and the project goals. That's all explained right here, and include nostalgia. You'll notice that's important to us on this one. Now we get into your previous work samples. You can just drop those in right here, 3 boxes for 3 samples. These samples should not be your final concept, just a taste of what you're capable of as an artist. And 1 previous work sample needs to be consistent with your proposed 3D medium. That's also in the call for art, so you don't have to, remember that in your noggin. You can read it later, but keep it in mind. Finally, the last bit of the application is this optional identification. You don't have to fill it out if you don't want to, but if it's important to your work as an artist, we love if you fill it out. Now I'm going to go back to, and then that's it. You hit submit form. Read it twice, check it twice. Now I'm going to go back to presentation and talk about some criteria. The selection panel will select up to 3 finalists based on these following points. Eligibility and completeness of your application. That's pass-fail because we don't ask our selection panel to review incomplete applications. Now, appropriate medium, at least 1 previous work example must be consistent with your proposed medium. That's also pass-fail. Artistic quality of previous work examples. We want to see what you're capable of, where your experience is, what's your vibe. Evidence of ability to follow through and meet deadlines. It's important that you show the selection panel that you do what you say you will and that you submit things on time. Efficacy of written statement in addressing the project goals. This just says that you checked all the boxes, that you are answering the questions, you're responding to the project goals in a way that is unique to you and your practice as an artist. Now, concept description, including required themes, that is things I've already said, 3D medium, ideas for modular capability, and addressing nostalgia. Now, selection process. This is your application audience. So a huge part of what makes public art what it is here in the city of Boise is the public process, this selection process. Selection is determined by a selection panel, which is made up of community and project stakeholders. And this group is a local artist, an arts and history commissioner, an airport commissioner, community members who are connected to Boise and the airport, and project stakeholders who are connected to the airport. Those are usually airport employees or contractors. You'll notice this little sub bullet point. I'm not selecting the artist. So I'm there to facilitate the discussion. I am there to guide the panelists and make sure that they understand what they're doing. But the panel is selecting the artist. Panelists score applications based on the criteria in the call, the criteria that I just went through. And they use the same set of criteria, set descriptors tied to point values for every application, just to ensure fairness. Then after panelists score applications, we meet to discuss the top scores. They come to a consensus on 3 finalists. Those 3 finalists will receive a $500 stipend for their proposal. And then they'll meet again to select one artist or artist team to award the contract. Tips and questions. Couple of tips. This seems like common sense, but it's just a good reminder. If you have any questions, don't forget to submit them in the Q&A function or call or email me after. And then a few basic suggestions. Just double check everything, check it twice. Make sure that you understand the questions, what's being asked of you. Make sure that you're answering all of those questions being asked. Double check that you uploaded all the documents. Sometimes people submit their application and they forgot to upload something. Just double check that you have the right documents in the right spots. Be clear and concise. Remember that you're communicating with strangers. This is also a good reminder for me that I am communicating with all of you and trying to be clear and concise. Connect your written descriptors to your medium, your past work examples. And then final reminder, application pools are often very competitive. Remember to think about what you can contribute that is especially meaningful to the project. Now, a couple of questions that I want to start with right away, and these are questions that I've already received, and they're very important to bring up as some of you might also have these questions. Can you be from outside of Idaho? Yes. This opportunity is not limited to Idaho residents. Of course, we encourage our local artists to apply, but it is not limited only to local. You can be from any state and still apply and still be totally eligible. Why is this opportunity three-dimensional? There are a few reasons for this. One is that the Boise Airport is going through an expansion and an update. So they are building a new concourse, then they'll update the existing concourse B where this work is going. And during that construction, we'll remove all public artworks during construction to protect it. And our team kind of realized how exciting it could be for passengers to see a piece installed in one location for a period of time and then reinstalled in a different way in a new location for another period of time. Just continues to activate that space in a new and exciting way. Another reason is that we're always trying to diversify the public art collection, especially at the airport. We have a lot of wonderful 2D pieces, but a three-dimensional piece helps expand the collection with new art while also offering a fun viewing experience for our passengers, which is really the goal, to enhance passenger experience. Now, if you guys have questions, I realize I kind of ran through that pretty quick. No question is a stupid question, so submit it in the Q&A session, in the Q&A section, and we will start answering them.
Savannah, you've got a few questions going. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Johnson. I'm the Public Art Program Manager. I'm supporting Savannah with the Q&A. So I will get started reading them. So first question, define modular and adaptable in the context of this proposed space. Will it need to move? Will it need capacity to be rearranged?
Great question. And the answer to that is yes. So the way that I describe modular in this particular project is I think of it almost like a puzzle. So a puzzle is made of multiple pieces. Each piece is unique, but collectively they create one image. The only difference is that a puzzle is static. You only create one image out of multiple pieces. And in this case, I'm challenging artists to go a step further and create a work that is made of multiple pieces, like a puzzle, but can be deinstalled and rearranged in a new location and in a different location, in a different composition. So the goal ultimately is yes, a 3D work made of multiple pieces that can be reinstalled. So let's say your work is 4 pieces. You can have them in multiple different compositions when it's installed in a different location. And if that doesn't answer your question, feel free to ask it again.
Someone else has a similar question, so maybe I think you answered the first half of their question, but do you have any guidance on what types of different spaces or dimensions we should consider um, in context of different spaces than the one being asked for right now?
We don't have a specific location that this piece will be moved to in the future. I think that that is up to construction spaces that are created. So we don't have specific dimensions for the new location. That's something that can be talked about with the selected artist. So when you are designing your piece, thinking about it, and if you are selected as a finalist and picking specific dimensions, base your design off of the dimensions that are provided in the call. So that 22 feet long by 5.5 feet high, and as long as your modular and adaptable pieces fit on that wall, then when we reinstall it in a new location, we will make sure that we have the appropriate space to install it in this new composition that we are asking you for.
Can you please reiterate the distinction between the statement and concept once more?
Yes, great question. So the written statement is more about inspiration and project goals. And then your concept description is more about the medium and the ideas for the physical work. And we are asking you to connect them a little bit at the end, but to make that distinction between your answer to the project goals and nostalgia in the written statement, and then more ideas for your physical medium, what you think you would create physically in the concept description.
Someone else is asking about clarifying modular capability priority. Um, is it primarily a fabrication installation priority just so the entire piece can be easily taken through security, not in a giant 22 by 5 foot piece and assembled easily on location? Or are you guys looking for an art piece that is visually, conceptually modular?
Yes, great question. We are looking for a piece that is visually, conceptually modular. Um, of course, we are always thinking about ease of deinstallation and reinstallation, specifically with this piece that we know at some point will move to a new location. But really, this was an exciting opportunity to do something that we don't really have in the collection, which is a piece that to use your words, is visually and conceptually modular and adaptable.
What if one work sample reflects the modular element and one work sample reflects the materials? Do I need to explain this?
Um, I think that's okay. I think if you want to explain that in your concept description or in your written statement, both of those are appropriate locations to explain that. But I also think that if your work samples show that difference, that's great. But you could communicate that, yes, in your written statement or in your concept description, just so the selection panel has an idea of the difference in your examples.
Can there be lighting for the art? If so, would the lighting come from the art budget?
We don't have any electrical hookups in this location. There's no electrical on this wall. So we will work with the airport, the finalist that is selected and awarded the contract. We will work with the airport to try and find some ambient lighting to direct onto the piece, but there is no direct electrical hookup for any lighting elements.
Will the artwork be covered by protective glass?
It will not be. We don't have plans for any glazing. So that is something for artists to keep in mind is that this is a heavily traveled area. There, you'll notice in the image, and actually, why don't I scoot back up? There's seating right here. This is a hold room. This is a seating area outside gate 18. So people are going to be resting there. They're going to be sitting there. They're going to be putting their bags there. And we don't have any plans to protect this with glass. So considering your medium could be touched by the public, either accidentally or intentionally, we always try to discourage this. We want art to be as safe as possible, but there aren't going to be any glass or protective measures in front of it.
Can I propose more than one concept?
I would encourage you to only stick with one concept. I'm sure that if you have multiple concepts, they're all really great, but ultimately, when you're applying, you should stick to what is asked in the application because our selection panel can only score based on the application materials and how they relate to the scoring rubric and the criteria. So they really should only be looking at one concept proposal per person.
We've got a number of questions. I'm just going to kind of lump them together in one. Can applicants be from outside the US? Can a team be international?
Yes, this is not limited only to the United States. Just keep in mind that we are requiring artists to be in person for the installation. So that would be something that if you're selected, you would have to work out within your artist budget. I know that travel in general, and especially international travel, can be very expensive. So if you think that you can make that work and propose the proper artwork and meet the criteria and also afford to do the travel, please apply. There's no exclusion. So
When applying as an artist team, whose resume and work samples should we include in the application?
when it comes to your resume, I would encourage you to combine both of your resumes. If there's two or three of you, combine those resumes into one document so that it's easier for the selection panel. And then work samples, I would encourage you to choose either what you think is the best and meets the criteria in the most applicable manner, or you could select one or two from one artist and one or two from the other artist. Ultimately, how you choose the work samples, the past examples, is up to you.
How about cleaning and maintenance of the artwork?
Cleaning and maintenance is managed by the Arts and History Department. We have a really wonderful collections team who takes care of that, or we contract out with specialists if we need to. It is something that finalists could keep in mind when they're proposing a medium if they have thoughts on what they want that cleaning and maintenance to look like.
You had mentioned the importance of nostalgia as a concept. Can you elaborate, please?
Sure. So, this project sort of came out of trying to find a way to install something in Concourse B, which doesn't have a whole lot of public art, and also addressing all of the changes that are coming to the Boise Airport and the city of Boise. So, if you are from Boise or you visited Boise, you know that the city has grown a lot in the past 20 years. If you live here and this is your local airport, you know that the airport is expanding dramatically and is working really hard to update their passenger experience. With that comes some maybe not always positive feelings, maybe a little bit of a yearning for the past or a longing for the past. We really want artists to tap into that. It doesn't have to be unique to Boise. So if you're not from Boise or Idaho, that's okay. but tap into your artistic practice and how it connects to nostalgia. Is there something, a place, a person, an idea that you feel extremely nostalgic for? Or maybe you don't, and that's an important part of your proposal or your concept or your practice. For me personally, I'm not from Idaho, I'm from the Midwest, and I miss all the open plains and fields. And I would probably do something that felt like I was pushing and pulling between the mountains and the fields. I'm not an artist, which is why I wouldn't do that. But if I was, I would probably be nostalgic for that. So that's just one example of how an artist could tap into that idea of nostalgia. But ultimately, it's up to you. What nostalgia means to you and how you want to represent it is up to the applicant. I hope that answered your question.
Question, the need to disclose AI if none is used creatively, but some to help with my writing. Do you want to know about that?
Yes, please. It is not going to disqualify you or any applicant if you use AI, but we know that lots of people, including artists or arts organizations, sometimes even use AI. And we just want to know at what point and how much was used. That information will be given to the selection panel. And again, you're not disqualified by that. It's just information for the selection panel.
Will travel expenses be covered in the 50K for artists and art? Um, so if they are out of state for travel.
Yes, so that 50,000 is an artist fee in total. So that includes your materials, your installation hardware, your travel, the stipend that you pay yourself as an artist. All of that is included in that 50,000.
Would paintings on multiple birch panels count as 3D? These are 2D panels, but on 2-inch thick panels, which can be rearranged, or does the profile of the piece need to be 3D or present a 3D profile?
I think that it needs to present a 3D profile. Stephanie, I'll also ask your opinion, but I would personally say, as the coordinator on this project, that we are really looking for that 3D profile rather than a collection of 2D works.
Yeah, I would reiterate that the original intention around this idea for a project was that we're looking for, something that's maybe like a bas relief or somewhat textured that gives, again, diversifies our collection because we have already a lot of, framed paintings and photography in our collection. And this is an opportunity to bring something different to the airport. Question. Hello, can the art piece be 2D with an augmented reality activation via a passenger's mobile device?
I think that there's potential for an augmented reality opportunity in the airport at some point. And ultimately, the piece should still be 3D. If you want to incorporate those together and you do it successfully with your three-dimensional art element and the augmented reality, great, go for it. But it really should still be three-dimensional. That is a requirement of the project.
Do you have an installation team or will the artist be responsible for installation?
We will be contracting out for installation. We want the artist in person to be there to explain, what their thoughts are on installation, maybe to assist a little bit if necessary, but ultimately, arts and history will be contracting out and paying for installation separately. Artists, the selected artist, is required to budget for installation hardware, but not the physical labor of installation.
Um, Kind of back on the reinstallation, when the artwork could be relocated, would the artist be called back to reinstall or would it be reinstalled by others?
We would definitely consult the chosen artist for reinstallation and the location, but ultimately it's probably going to be logistical factors that determine that location. So it's going to be, is there enough space? Is the structural support of the wall enough to hold the work? Are the supports in the appropriate location? So I can promise that yes, we will consult the selected artist, but the final decision will be based on more realistic factors, like if the space is appropriate physically.
Well, one of the flaggers is
Does
missing,
it
one
need
of
to
the
be a
airplanes is
rectangle or does
missing.
the shape matter?
Yeah.
Shape does not matter. That's just the shape of the wall. It just so happens that it's a 22 by 5.5 foot rectangle. You do not have to ultimately produce a rectangular modular work. It can be an oval, it can be a circle, it can be a halo. It can be a trapezoid. It could be whatever shape you want it to be, or none of. It can be amorphous. I can't come up with any more shapes. Does not have to be a rectangle.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe this was touched on when you were talking about nostalgia in another question, but just in case there's anything extra to add, is there a time in mind for the nostalgia element? For example, Boise in the 90s is a different nostalgic feel than Boise in the 60s. When it comes to feeling nostalgic, is there any more guidance you can provide?
That's a great question. There's no specific timeline or time frame that we are thinking of when I say nostalgia. And it doesn't even have to be explicitly connected to Boise. We know full well that not every artist is from Boise. This is not limited to local artists. So your idea of nostalgia, if you're not from Boise or Idaho, might be very different than an artist who is from Boise or Idaho. All that to say, no specific timeline. Nostalgia could even be not connected to an exact year. It could just be your feelings for the house you used to live in, or an animal you used to have, or nostalgia for a country you never got to live in, even though you really wanted to. I would say get creative, really stretch your imagination and your creative skills as
I was trying
artists
to help you out.
to come up with what nostalgia means for you. Doesn't have to be Boise or a specific timeline.
One question that I do have is
Okay.
what sort of assets
Sorry, we're still at 28 questions, so I'm trying to scroll through and find ones. We
Okay.
may not get to all of them
art goes
in
away?
this.
Like as a ranger.
Can you explain the additional $20,000, 400 for project admin and installation, and how much involvement will the commissioned artist or team be expected to be involved in this scope?
So that extra money is to pay our finalists for their proposal. It pays our selection panel, and then it also pays for the installation. So that extra pocket of money is money that we don't expect the artist to use to pay for those things. We are taking care of that out of admin fees. It's part of the overall project, but not part of the artist fee. And everyone, it does sound like there are lots of questions left. So if we don't get to your question or you want a longer explanation, you can call or email me. And I'll put my contact information on the screen.
I've got one last question. Is there a preference for ceiling hung or wall mounted art? What are their weight limitations?
So there is no ability to connect to the ceiling, unfortunately. It is a really great idea, but there are no supports in the ceiling for this work, and the scope of this project doesn't extend to the ceiling. So this is only a wall installation. Okay, guys, if you want more of an elaboration on your question, maybe I answered it and it just didn't feel clear enough to you, email me or call me. And the same for if there was a question that you had that didn't get answered, email or call. And you can always reach me at this email address and this phone number, and I will get back to you as soon as I can so that you can get moving on your application, so that you feel like you have enough time and enough information to do it properly.